Thank you, Sheriff Cassidy. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you all here tonight. We got a full house. We'll turn the thermostat down so not get too warm in here, hopefully. I've got to see a lot of shaking heads. Welcome again to our monthly meeting of the Sullivan County Commission. We always, by tradition, start our meetings with an invocation, and I would ask Commissioner Larry Crawford to join us in that.
Thank you, Chairman. Let's bow to prayer. Almighty God, it's with grateful hearts that we come before your throne again this evening to give you thanks for all that you've done for us, the abundant life that you've provided. Thank you for all the promises, and we know the best is yet to come for us. We ask you now to continue to keep us in good health. Be with those that are suffering this hour. Give them a touch from you. Those that are suffering across our world and our nation, we pray a touch from you. Bless this time now that we have to come together. May the decisions we make be for the betterment of our community and our county and our citizens. For we pray all of this in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Sheriff Cassidy, would you lead us in the pledge?
Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Looks like most of our commissioners are in their seats, so Madam Clerk, would you take the roll? When the board opens, please record your attendance. Good. I know Angie's here. Would somebody punch Angie's? Just talk to her so it's allowable for us to, there she is. Okay, Madam Clerk, take the roll.
23 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Next up on our agenda are guest speakers, proclamations, recognitions, and presentations. First up, we will recognize Commissioner Alicia Starnes in the will, if you'd like to, Alicia, to recognize some outstanding young people. And she will call you up to join her. Mr. Starnes, you're recognized in the will.
Thank you, Chairman. In recognition of their participation and success in the Eastern Region 4-H Clover Bowl, which was held Thursday, May the 19th on the campus of the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, we would like to welcome 4th grade 4-H members from Miller Perry Elementary. Ellie Carpenter, Sophie Perry, Harper Skinner, and Jonah Stilton, along with their families and teacher and coach, Ms. Angie Jeffers. The 4-H Clover Bowl tests students in grades 4 through 8 knowledge related to 4-H, agriculture, government, life skills, science, and Tennessee. The regional event consists of 3 or 4 member teams competing in a single elimination quiz bowl style tournament format. Teams from 33 UT, TSU, Extension, Eastern Region counties are eligible to participate. The Miller Perry 4th grade team finished as champions in a field of 18 teams this year. They earned the opportunity to participate in the regional event by winning the Sullivan County 4-H Clover Bowl for their grade division held at Ron Ramsey Ag Center, UT, TSU Extension Office in April. These students, along with many other local 4-H members, all learn more about their knowledge areas through preparation for school and county events. Event preparation aims to reinforce several science and social studies concepts prior to state testing, promote teamwork, responsibility, goal setting, and positive self-esteem. A special thanks to Ms. Jeffers for giving of her time to coach the 4-H Clover Bowl team, and family members who assisted with preparing for 4-H Clover Bowl this year. Congratulations to these 4-H members for their outstanding accomplishment of earning the title Eastern Region 4-H Clover Bowl champions. When I call your name, Miss Ellie Carpenter, Sophie Perry, Harper Skinner, and Jonah is not here, he's on vacation. And we have one for Miss Jeffers and one for her to take back to the school. And being from Miller Perry, I'm very proud of this group.
Walter, you're recognized. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Walter Malone, 4-H Extension Agent. We're real proud of these girls, and Jonah, that's not here with us tonight. They competed in the regional contest open to the 33 counties in the eastern part of the state in a single elimination quiz bowl. And they studied for a long time to learn all those different facts out of that book, and they won. They did an outstanding job. I think they're the third team from Sullivan County to get their name on that rotating 4th grade division trophy in the last several years. So really proud of these girls, and I know they're already looking forward to the 5th grade competition. So we're excited about that as their 4-H agents, but congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Malone, and Ms. Jeffers, thank you, and congratulations on the achievement of your young people. Thank you, Commissioner Starnes, for handling that presentation. Next up, we have another recognition of very outstanding performance this year. And
Mayor, can I, I'd like to ask Walter a question before he gets.
Okay, Walter, Mr. Malone, Mr. King has a question. He normally doesn't need a microphone, but I'm going to turn one on anyway.
All right, go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
There we go. What about our steer show at Avenue?
That's coming next on your agenda.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that he got on the agenda. Okay, all right.
Okay. The agenda's in order. We do have another special presentation. I'd like to recognize Commissioner Todd Broughton to do that. And Commissioner Broughton, if you, Commissioner Laylock and Commissioner Parker Road would like to go to the well to recognize this outstanding young person. You're recognized, Todd.
This is there we go.
There you go.
Terry Harper Road, Judy Blaylock are joining me, and this is in recognition from the Bristol Steer and Heifer Show for the outstanding exhibit. This is in recognition for the success at the 78th Annual Bristol Steer and Heifer Show, which was held Saturday, May 14th at Washington County, Virginia, the Fairgrounds at Avenue. We'd like to welcome 4-H member Grace Huntington, along with her members of her family up as she come up, and then we'll finish this. We'll give this to you, and then we'll talk a little bit about you and let you say something. How's that sound? All right. It's my understanding that this was from the 4-H folks and from the Glover family and from the Crosswhite family. We're all importing information on this. So I'm sure I'm going to miss something, so I'm going to apologize up front, but we'll try to make up ground as we go. So Gracie participated in several components of the Bristol show, in which she earned several special recognitions, including being named winner of the junior division in the Beef Skillathon, novice showmanship champion, and was an exhibitor in the Grand Champion Finished Steer. Each of these accomplishments serves as evidence of the great effort Gracie has put into her 4-H beef project throughout the hours spent on the farm and caring for and working in the project for the animals and learning more about the beef cattle industry. Her steer finished at a weight of 1,225 pounds and was selected as the champion based primarily on the animal's characteristics. Her showmanship accomplishment focuses more on her ability to present an animal to the judge versus the animal's actual traits. Finally, her top place in the Junior Beef Skillathon, which consisted of a series of stations with questions on beef anatomy, nutrition and meat cuts, genetics, and quality assurance, shows the knowledge gained through her beef project work. Participation in the beef project allows youth like Gracie the opportunity to live out the 4-H slogan, learn by doing. This fosters and develops life skills. Congratulations to Gracie Huntington and her outstanding beef project accomplishments. Thank you, Gracie.
Well, we're real proud of Gracie too. To accomplish one of those things would have been a great achievement, but to win first place in several events there at the cattle show this year certainly does make her an outstanding 4-H member. And in general, from all of our young people tonight, I'm excited that these are all just finished the 4th grade, which is the first year that 4-H is offered in Tennessee. So I think the future for our program is looking bright here in Sullivan County. So thanks to everyone for recognition, and congratulations, Gracie, on your beef project accomplishments.
Thank you, Commissioner Broughton, Commissioner Blaylock, and Commissioner Harper Road. Why don't you and her get up there too?
We'll put Gracie right in the middle.
Okay, Gracie,
Come right on up. There you go. Let's turn around. Come on up here. Thank you all.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Think I got it?
Thank you, Commissioners, and I would tell the audience, if you have not seen a picture of that steer, you need to see one with her standing by. You certainly may. Turn on your microphone. Mr. King.
I just want to say that the Huntington family, who is represented back here by Gracie, has been a long-standing family in this agriculture group in Sullivan County. Miss Ella, ever since I've been involved in these associations and what Miss Ella's been there, and Dwight. And of course, Dwight used to give me a hard time over politics, and every time I saw him at a Farm Bureau meeting, he was telling me something about taxes or something, or what I should be doing or what I shouldn't be doing. So I just, I'd suck up and just listen to him. But the thing of it was, most of the time he was right about what he was saying. And but there again, the Huntington family is, and I was with them Saturday over at the fairgrounds, and they Gracie showed heifers and I think a steer there also, but there was, there again, the Hunnigan family, stand up back there, if you don't mind. And before long, they're going to have a whole team to show. So we've been low on our numbers as far as people showing, but with the Hunnigan family, I think we're going to have plenty showing. So, but congratulations on Gracie and the Hunnigan family and what they do. So I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Commissioner King. And as I say, if you haven't seen a picture of that, if his advice is as good as they are at raising steers, you ought to take it. Anyway, we have one further presentation, proclamation, and I'd like to recognize Commissioner Angie Stanley in the well for that presentation. Do you have to hold that down? Well, help's on the way, Angie. Just a second.
Check, check.
There you go.
Thank you. I would like for Ms. Sullivan County, Eliza Sanders, to come up to the front, please. I would like to present her with a proclamation recognizing her for all of her work that she has done here in Sullivan County. She is Miss Sullivan County. Eliza Faith Sanders, she came to the United States after being adopted from China as a baby, and she has lived in Sullivan County ever since. And whereas Eliza attended Sullivan County schools and was a product of Miller Perry Elementary, Colonial Heights Middle, and a member of the last graduating class of Sullivan South High School. And whereas, after being crowned Miss Sullivan County, she decided to defer her enrollment at Middle Tennessee State University in order to serve her county better. So by attending Northeast State her freshman year, she completed her first year of college in Sullivan County. And whereas Eliza has had a very active year, she has visited every school in our county school system, serving at events from Kingsport to Blumpville to Bristol, and meeting hundreds of residents in Sullivan County. Whereas Eliza will be representing Sullivan County at the Miss Tennessee competition in Memphis later next week. Now therefore, Richard Venable, Mayor of Sullivan County, do hereby recognize Ms. Liza Faith Sanders for her hard work, dedication, and achievement of the title of Miss Sullivan County. And today is Ms. Liza's 19th birthday, and she will represent us well next week whenever she goes to the Miss Tennessee pageant. And I think she wants to say a few words.
Miss Sullivan County, you're recognized.
Thank you. Well, hello. I gave a speech, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, at the school board meeting talking about some different things I did throughout my year and just kind of giving a year report of Sullivan County. So I figured I would share the same speech here with you all today. So once again, I'm Miss Sullivan County, Eliza Faith Sanders, and I've been serving Sullivan County for almost a year now, as I was crowned last July during Fun Fest Week. I am a product of the Sullivan County school system, going through Miller Perry Elementary, Colonial Heights Middle, and the last graduating class of Sullivan South High School. I also have a little sister. Her name is Lydia, and she is going to be an 8th grader at Sullivan Heights and will eventually become a wolf at Westridge High School. So my college path ended up changing. It was the second day that I was crowned Miss Sullivan County, and I was invited to speak at the Sullivan County School Board meeting. And I did not know that that day would change my entire year for what I had planned. After that, I had a lot of people coming to me asking if we could partner together on drives for an Isaiah 117 house, or wanting me to come to an event or come speak to their school. And I realized then that I could not fully serve in Sullivan County if I was going to be in Middle Tennessee. So I decided to stay here, and that was a wonderful decision for me. I was able to take advantage of Tennessee Promise, and I got to save the money that I won as Miss Sullivan County to be able to further my education and use that money later on in my college career. So this allowed me to be able to fully give back to the community and the school system that formed who I am today. One of my goals that when I became Miss Sullivan County was to be able to reach all of Sullivan County. I know that Kingsport gets reached pretty well because we have a Miss Kingsport. That's where we're based out of, so there's a lot of things we do there. But I felt that Sullivan County wasn't fully getting reached. There were people that didn't even know Miss Sullivan County existed. So I wanted to make sure I was reaching the entire county, and I was meeting as many people as I could. One of the ways that I did that was by doing a lot of community events. A few of them include Fill the Bus with the school system, the Bloomingdale Car Show with the Ruritan Club, the Back to School event with the sheriff, Halloween event with the sheriff, and Christmas drive-through also with the sheriff. I went to a tree lighting, and one of my favorites being Night to Shine, which was for special needs children at the Speedway. I also plan to do a Ruritan drive for the Isaiah 117 house as my last official service project as Miss Sullivan County before I give up the title in July. So I'm going to give you a little bit of my year in the school system through numbers first. I visited all 15 schools, 2 high schools, 3 middle schools, including the 4th middle school being Innovation Academy covered with Central, and the 10 elementary schools. I spoke to 56 classes, which included me talking about my personal adoption story, reading stories about adoption to them so that we could normalize not every family has to look alike to be a family. I got asked a lot of questions like, what is adoption, or what does biological mean, which was asked to me by a 2nd grader, which I think is pretty incredible. But we also got asked some fun questions like, how do you keep the crown on your head, or what's your favorite movie? And then we proceeded to talk a lot about Spider-Man and Marvel. I spoke to 1 auditorium full of a freshman class and 1 gym of 8th graders, and we talked about how to make the most of your high school experience. I spoke about leadership, giving back to the community, and of course had to talk about my own social impact initiative, Families Are Forever. I spoke with 1,250 students in person. I hosted 8 different sock collection nights where I was able to attend multiple basketball games to take up socks in donation for the Isaiah 117 house, which covered the high schools and the middle schools. Together we collected over 2,100 pairs of socks for the Isaiah house, which is absolutely incredible. And we raised $1,936 in monetary donations. In total, I traveled 562 miles to visit all these schools and do all the drives, which included 1 flat tire, 1 tow truck, and 1 rescue ride at 2 a.m. But I'll leave you with one final number, 1. One life that was blessed by all of these visits and all of these community events and the opportunities and people that were met. One life that was challenged to meet multiple goals that are much easier said than done. And one life that was humbled by the generosity of the community, the encouragement and the courtesy of the students and teachers, and the dedication of the faculty, staff, and leaders of our Sullivan County. All of those schools that I visited, every event that I went to, I am so grateful to be that one life. You all should be so incredibly proud of not only your school system, but just this community and your county. I loved every event I went to. I left every school thinking this is an amazing school with really bright children and wonderful teachers that want to invest in their education and their future. This has been a wonderful experience for me. I know that I met some future Miss Sullivan counties along my way, and I've loved every moment of it. It's definitely been a highlight of my year. So thank you for this opportunity and for sharing your county with me. I'm still going to be continuing my year of service until the very last second when I crown the next girl. So if you still want to partner with me or do something, I would love to talk with you afterwards. I'm going to Miss Tennessee actually on Saturday, and I'm going to be competing next week. And I hope that I can show them all of the love that you all have given me here in Sullivan County and share that across the state of Tennessee. Thank you all so much for this opportunity. I am so grateful to have served you for a year.
Eliza, thank you so much. We're so proud of you.
Thank you.
And we wish you Godspeed in your competition.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Stanley, for handling that. I know you followed Eliza's career. So next up, I would like to go away from the agenda for just a minute. We have with us tonight our Sullivan County Election Executive Director of our Election Commission, Jason Brewer, and Jason just completed probably one of our most successful changeovers in history of Sullivan County to a voting machine. And Jason, congratulations on the election you just held, and good luck on the next one. So you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, it seems like all too often what our focus is upon is what divides us, division and conflict. But as you all know, and as I know, it's really a team effort. What we do is a team sport, serving the public. And through that division, we find our way forward. So I would first like to thank the 240 election officials, private citizens that serve a 14-hour day plus, volunteer to do so. Without them, we could not. I don't vote people. I don't help the voters cast ballots. They do. Our private citizens do that. I'd like to thank the 5 members of the Sullivan County Election Commission. I would like to thank every person who has ever stood for office, those who have served in office, 24 members of this body and Mr. Mayor, County Attorney, and there's several in the room behind me. Everybody contributes at some point, and it's a huge sacrifice just running for office, and you all know that. Without candidates, I wouldn't have an election to run. I would like to thank this body for your allocation of the funding to pay for the equipment that we just utilized in the election in May. A transition to a new voting system isn't easy. I think we live in one of the most resistant to change areas in the country. And in some people's minds, we took a step back to paper. But it was an entirely different system from the top to the bottom. And our election officials, those 240 people who at best, at most, serve 3 days out of every 2 years. I mean, there's a lot of things that I do on a daily basis that I forget how to do from time to time. And I would like to thank you for your allocation of that funding, but I'm here tonight to also comment on the team effort. As we were preparing to buy the equipment, I became aware of a bill that was running through the General Assembly that would, from this date forward, fully fund the acquisition of a verified paper audit trail voting system for all 95 counties in this state. Under the original provision of the bill as introduced, Sullivan County would not be a recipient of those funds. Kind of had a problem with that. I picked up the phone and I called one of our own. We call him Jocko. I often refer to him as Chairman Crawford. He's chairman of the local government committee for the state of Tennessee. Very, very important position. Can get a lot of things done. And I told him about the situation we were in and the fact that we would be omitted from the funding because we just made that acquisition. From there, he talked to the coordinator of elections, Mark Goins, Secretary of State, Trey Hargett, and together, with his push, with his position, and with all of our efforts, we were able to include Sullivan County in that bill. So I'm pleased to report to you tonight that the allocation of the funding for the equipment that we purchased has been fully paid for by the state. And so opportunity was there. It could have been missed. It could have been overlooked. And if it wouldn't have been for the right people like Chairman Crawford, working with our state officials, Trey Hargett, Mark Goins, we would have missed that funding. So I wanted to let you all know that you're not on the hook for any of it with your funding that you allocated. And thank you for what you did to get us to that point and what you continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Very good news. Money stays in the bank. Okay, next up on our agenda is the approval of commission minutes from previous meetings. They've been spread electronically. Commissioner Gardner moves adoption. Commissioner Crawford seconds. Any additions, corrections? Seeing none, we have that on. We may have it on board. We may have. The board, I wish you could see her flying through these screens. That is a God-given talent. Board is open. Please cast your vote on the motion for adoption of the previous minutes of the previous commission meetings. Thank you, Laura. Madam Clerk, has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
23 yes. And 0 no. Yeah, 1 absent, sorry.
That's fine. Motion is approved. Next up, we kept the board open. We can record that on the minutes of the meeting that Commissioner Stanley voted yes. I think we can record them over here that she voted yes, and that'll be fine. Okay. Next up, the approval of notary publics, or the notification of those who have applied to be notary publics for Sullivan County. Madam Clerk, if you would read the list.
Maria Del Carmen Ramburu, Amy L. Bachman, Mary P. Barkley, Angela Barrett, Katrina Blevins, Ashley E. Britt, Charlene Michelle Carnes, Sarah Ann Chapman Williams, Molly Jo Clark, R. Todd Koch, Michelle Lynn Davis, Marcia Dempsey, Mary Eck, Ann Michelle Ferguson, Ashley Lee Gobble, Rhonda D. Hall, Wesley Harris, Ginger Kirkpatrick, Caitlin L. Light, Kristen Marie Lucas, Paige Lupu, Connie S. Lyon, Deborah Jean Manus, Vicki J. Monroe, Donna T. Ostermeyer, Thomas Charles Platten, Sabrina M. Powers, Kathy Lynn Short, Lori A. Simpson, Catherine Smith, Benjamin Taylor, Melissa Lynn Tomlinson, Jenny Rose Sue Van Dyke, Maureen Yoder.
You've heard the list. Are there any objections to any of the names? I have a motion by Commissioner Cole to approve, second by Commissioner Cross. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, when the board opens, cast your vote. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
24 yes.
I received the necessary majority. The motion is adopted and the notary publics are appointed. Next up on our agenda is we will go into recess for the traditional public comment. So we're in recess. Commissioner Cross. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, this is a little unusual. The reason I've taken time, we have a column that checked if you're here to speak on a planning and zoning issue. And I have quite a list, so if I call your name and you're here for planning and zoning, just wave at me and then we'll go ahead and recognize you later if we didn't get it checked here. And we'll have that public hearing next. So first on the list, Mr. Jay Baldoff. Jay?
Thank you.
You're recognized.
I just want to take a brief moment to invite all the commissioners to the first annual Avoca Volunteer Fire Department Car and Bike Show fundraiser. It's going to take place at the Earhart Campground, which is just north of Bristol Motor Speedway. It's on the over the bridge that's marked with the Toyota sign. It's going to start at 10 o'clock and go until 3. We're going to start judging the automobiles. We're expecting to have between 200 and 300 cars and bikes displayed, and probably about 500 spectators. It's going to start at 10 o'clock in the morning. Judging is going to start at noon. Awards are going to be presented at 2 o'clock, and it's going to end at 3. The award presentation, the mayor graciously acknowledged that he would do the award presentation for us this year. And I got an email yesterday with a surprise. Diana Harshbarger, our congresswoman, is also going to come out to the event, and she's going to help Richard give out the trophies. And we're going to be going on TV next Thursday, the Channel News 5 at noon, and we're going to be on with Preston Ayers to publicize this event. And I'm hoping that everybody can come out for it, especially the commissioners in my District 4 that's Avoca Fire Department does serve. And I just want to let everybody know about that, and I left flyers on everybody's desk. Thank you.
Jay, I forgot to ask you for our electronic records. Give us your name and address.
Oh, J. Baldoff, 449 Lakeshore Road in Bluff City.
Thank you, and I look forward to handing out those awards.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up on the list, Charles Phelps. I believe you're here for zoning, so next is Amber Simcox, here for zoning. Dorothy Perry, here for zoning. Betty Coogan, zoning. Corey Roberts, zoning. Ronnie Tallman. Good to see you. If you will, give us your name and address for our electronic record. Thank you.
My name's Ronnie Tallman. I live at 374 Ely Road. And I was here the other night when the meeting was talking about the water department, you know. And of course, I reckon signed the agreement with Tim Ham last night for a 5-year contract is what I understand, which don't understand that at all. But I mean, you probably don't have no control over it. I don't know if you do or not if on this vote. But, you know, the one commissioner always gets outvoted.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. That's good. And then the other one is, I sit here and listen to all of y'all speak, though not all of you didn't respond, but with Herschel's thing about state of pay, I'm not proud of this. I had a brother that spent 50 years on probation, in and out of jail, everything. My mama, I worked at Bristol Meadows one time when I was 17, didn't have much education. I finally got an education. I spent, then later on in life, I got a GED. I went through some things as over maintenance at Superior Industries. It was, went through 13 weeks of Dale Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people. Well, I'm pretty honest, so sometimes I don't influence people. But I was kind of appalled at some of the answers because we were asking the prisoners to pay money and everybody was worried about their families. Okay, what about, I don't know how many taxpayers they are in Sullivan County, but there is a bunch. And I know some of you have been voted out. I see here on one resolution, Mr. Vance, to allow employees with 30 years of service to retire with full benefits, retirement, and all that. I'm not against that, but that's really costing taxpayers money. But I heard what he said about Herschel's thing, and you know, it upset me a little bit. And then I looked at some of the, you know, we talk about all the dangerous jobs that go along with some of the Sullivan County things, and maybe the sheriff, I talked to him just the other night, is maybe, I don't know if it's for or against this, but I looked up the top 25 most dangerous jobs. Their job's 22. And Dwight, as a logger, your job's #1 as far as fatalities and stuff. So, and the reason I say that is because it is a dangerous job. I really respect these officers because my brother got everything he deserved. He died at 63-year-old here last year, about 7 or 8 months ago, overdose at 63. I'm 63 today. There was a year between us. So, as much money as I helped my mother pay him out, I look back and we want to, you know, say reform him or whatever. I'm telling you, from a man that's done a lot of things at a younger age, the only, my mom and daddy had nothing to do with me now because I'm 63. And you're looking at a man that made all these decisions on his own. When you see all these prisoners down here, they made those decisions on their own. No matter who pays for it, if it's their parents pay for it, if they want to pay, fine. But they need to work. Nobody wants to work no more. Put them out here doing whatever. Send them to my house. I'll let them weed eat or whatever for minimum wage. I mean, I'm fine with that. But we've got to keep this in mind. This needs to happen. And I'm sure that all these voters out here will see how y'all vote on this tonight. Some of you's going to be gone, I don't know, August, September or something. But the rest of you, I want you to know, I mean, I appreciate everything you do. Mayor, listening to me. And
need to wrap up.
Right. And then the other one was, I was really hurt about Mr. Hare, wanted to send him down there, you know. And anyway, that's been taken care of, and that'll be remembered too. And James Reimer, who is he's a constable, yes. I've had 2 brain surgeries, so I'm a little slow sometimes. But a few weeks ago, he hauled my car, had hauled in that my grandson was driving at Hickory Tree store. and the sheriff, he helped me on that, took care of it and stuff, but there's nothing they could do as far as, you know, I didn't have to pay for it, but I had to go get my car out here and somebody needs to look at these constables and some of these things that's going on, especially with him. And that's, I just want you to remember that.
Need you to wrap up. Thank you.
I'm done.
Appreciate it.
But thank you.
And I did mention earlier, we try to keep comments to thank you to 3 minutes, and I don't really enforce that rule real hard. If you're making a point, I'll let you go on. So thank you for sharing with us. We have Ms. Mullins, who is here for zoning, and Carl Little, zoning. Carl? Okay. Renee Tallman? Ms. Tallman, if you'll give us your name and address when you get up, and I'd say we try to do 3 minutes, but.
Okay, I'm Renee Tallman. I live at 374 Ely Road. Also, that's my husband. The thing that I was really concerned about is I'm a white working woman that pays taxes, and apparently if you work in this country, you pretty much fit the bill for a lot of people that don't. And I think Sheriff Cassidy and all the sheriffs are doing a great job. But I definitely think that prisoners, they should pay. I like that agenda that Mr. Glover has put forward, because I don't think that we as taxpayers should have to fit the bill for them if they can work. Let them do, if the family doesn't have the money, let them do community service or something. What about, apparently last time a lot of commissioners were concerned about the prisoners' families. Well, what about people that work like me that pay taxes in my family? And that's what I want to know. And also, I can't read my writing. That's pretty bad, isn't it? I just want to say, as a taxpayer of Sullivan County, I do appreciate everything that everyone does. But I think I'm speaking for a lot of people that taxpayers and working America, we're tired from Washington on down, that apparently people have forgotten who they work for. You know, every commissioner here is a servant of the people of Sullivan County, and I appreciate that. So that's what you need to listen to. We as a people need to have a voice. We need to speak it. We need to come to these meetings to find out what's going on, who's voting how, and all that. I think a lot of people know. I'm gonna try to make it as public as I possibly can, because I think more people would be pleased and unpleased at certain things. But I'm just saying, keep the people in mind, okay? When it comes to this, the jail and the working, what's wrong with? They don't need to go to a motel. I mean, I'd like to do that myself on vacation, but it's a jail. And I'm not saying being inhumane to these people, because I have a lot of friends and they're, you know, have family members in jail, but at least treat it like a jail. Let them do their work and pay for their time.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I have one more. Heather. I don't want to butcher your name, Heather, so no. I'm gonna let you give us your name and address, and it's good to see you back tonight.
Thank you, sir. Heather Imbergia, 249 Grandview Court in Kingsport. So I spoke last night to part of the commission, and some of you are gonna have to hear it again, and I apologize for that, but I'm gonna keep kicking the stones over until it's completely said and done. I'm talking about Innovation Academy. So what I want to say tonight about Innovation Academy, and first and foremost, thank you for letting me speak again tonight. And I do understand that the commission is not the one that made this decision, that this is the school board's decision, but eventually it's going to come to a big vote. And I just want everyone to go into it eyes wide open and to know that there's another side. So why Innovation Academy? Why is it important? Number one, STEM is critical. The future is in STEM. There are millions of jobs projected to go unfulfilled in the near future. In fact, 3.5 million are going to be needed by 2025. And they're hard to fill. If we don't start educating children early on in STEM, these jobs go elsewhere. There are other communities that are pushing STEM. This is the future, and we're going to lose it. STEM jobs are projected to grow by 8.8%. In fact, specifically in software development by 22%. Occupations in STEM have grown 79% since 1990. I say all this because the average median hourly wage for a STEM job is $38.85. Now, why is that important here? Because with the exception of military and college, 37% of people never live outside their hometown. 57% never leave their state. So imagine if we really push STEM and we get this hourly wage, $38.85, and it stays here. So that's one perspective. What we're talking about is a line item of $425,852. That's $350,000 in teacher salaries, $75,852 in transportation. I don't just speak for myself when I say that the transportation costs can go away. Well, parents will take our children, or maybe we could utilize the transportation that's already at an operational school where Innovation Academy sits. In fact, Innovation Academy shares the same admin staff, the same cafeteria workers, the same art, PE, and specialty teachers. These aren't additional costs. So when you look at this as a whole, it's not additional electricity, it's not additional water. It is, and if we can tighten this up, then I think Innovation Academy not only is savable, but there are solid reasons to the community why. And why am I one of the only parents that's been out actively talking about it? Because we weren't told. We were given no heads up. The teachers were not allowed to talk about it. And the vote happened when parents were getting ready to leave to go on summer vacation. There are people on vacation that are just now finding out that their child's school is closed. They have no idea what's going to happen. Now, part of what's being said is that these children will be incorporated into the district, and so the money's not going to go anywhere because these kids are still going to exist within the same district. That's not necessarily true. I know a significant number of people that are going to homeschool their kids and or take them out of district. I know a family that moved here specifically for Innovation Academy, and they're not going to return to the area and keep their child coming to these schools if Innovation Academy closes. What kind of students go to Innovation Academy? These are your squirrely, inquisitive kids. These are the tinkers of the future. These are your non-traditional, non-linear thinkers. They're the ones that take a little bit more time in the classroom. They're the ones that need a little bit more than just sitting in the classroom and following a linear path. And it's totally fine, but this is the future of children. This is what a lot of children going forward are going to need. They're going to need hands-on. They're going to need project-based courses. And this increases not only their ability to get jobs in the future and to find their value, but also to provide value to the community, to create, to be patent holders, to be your engineers at Eastman. And talking about Eastman, we haven't been given a chance to go to any of the corporations in our community that house STEM jobs to apply for grants. I mean, we're talking less than $500,000 and probably less if we tighten it up, and parents haven't been given an opportunity to try to save it.
Heather needs you to wrap it up.
Yes, sir. The other thing I can only impress upon you is that if you will look at the test scores of Innovation Academy, it's going to take a huge hit to the district if that school goes away, because when you average it out, Innovation Academy drives up the scores. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. We have a little tighter schedule than our normal committee meetings, which you spoke to us last night. I believe that completes our list. So is there any? Yes, I'll recognize you. Public comment and not in session, but I recognize Commissioner Lover in the well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, fellow commissioners, lady commissioners. What I want to talk about tonight, some of the folks touched on here. The young lady talked about the Innovation Academy. That strikes me as a very important part of the county for its future. Eastman employees, Domtar employees, Wellmont employees. We've got a lot of potential there. But what I want to touch on the most is what happened just a few weeks ago. Our community that Commissioner King and I serve, and some commissioners from District 4 serve, our community was almost devastated again. Our two schools have been moved, our middle school in Bluff City, our middle school in Piney Flats, and we almost lost one of the best principals that Sullivan County has ever had, Andy Hare. When my granddaughter heard the news that Principal Hare was leaving, she was devastated. A lot of the other kids was devastated. And we as community folks were devastated. Andy Hare has done more for East High School than any person that I can remember, except a fellow named David Rutherford that used to be the baseball coach there. David got these kids enthusiastic about learning, and that's what Andy did, and that's what Andy does. Those kids at East High School would walk through glass for Andy Hare. I've seen what he does. I've seen how he approaches the kids, how he gets them fired up, how he treats them like young men and women. And at that age, you need somebody like Commissioner Hare or Principal Hare to lead you. You're getting into the workforce of making decisions that's going to impact your life from now on. And he leads those kids in the right direction. He's good for the community. I want to thank whoever it was at the school board or the director of schools for putting Principal Hare back at East. Our community couldn't have took another hit like that. There was a lot of kids going to transfer. There was a lot of kids going to move out of Sullivan County, and we just couldn't afford that after already losing 300 and some kids. We just couldn't do that. So I do want to thank the folks or the powers to be that put Andy back at East. But that leads me to something that this commission done a while back, and I want to read it to you. This resolution is to request the state of Tennessee pass a law to allow Tennessee counties to have a local option to elect a director of schools. We recognize that the director of schools, whether approved by election or chosen by appointment, becomes chief executive officer of a school district. And whereas we support Tennessee counties being allowed a local option to reestablish the elected office of director of schools or continue Board of Education appointment. And whereas this provision allowing voters to choose to elect a director of schools is to be determined through a local election. Whereas we ascertain that directors of school can move the education dynamic closer to the interest and the goals of the community. That is a key factor right there. The community. When the electorate makes the choice to elect or appoint. Whereas we view this choice as a distinct way to embellish a long-term planning through the process of allowing Tennessee counties to choose to elect or allow Board of Education appointment of a director as determined by popular vote. That resolution passed 18 yes, 5 nay, and 1 absent. And that was on February the 12th of 2019. I'm asking all my fellow commissioners sitting in this room tonight to write your state representative and state senator a letter or send them an email and ask them to step up and let's move forward on this particular resolution and give the voters of Sullivan County the choice to elect who they feel like that can move our school forward. We have sat here the last 3 years, 9 or 10 months. We went back and forwards. I've got accused of a lot of things. School board has too. I'm willing to put all that behind and start over new. But when you have somebody making $157,000 a year and decisions like moving Andy Hare are made, the people need to make the call of who leads the school department. the Innovation Academy. I think we should reach out to Eastman. We should reach out to other businesses in the area that can really provide maybe provide the funding for that. But we've got to do it in a way to where we're all together. We can send Eastman a letter. We can send Ballard a letter. We can ask them to step up and help us with this program. You got 75 kids, if I'm not right.
And there would be more if we were allowed to promote.
Okay. But that's some of the things we can work together to do this. The finance committee that we've got and the budget committee that we got smart people in these places, and they can make this happen. But just all of a sudden snap up and do something like that is completely uncalled for. And I asked this commission, and I asked the community that's here tonight to do the same thing. Get in touch with your state representative in your area and Senator Lombard and tell them we want this resolution moved forward to where the next time the election comes up, we can elect our own superintendent of schools. I thank you for your time. I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our
Public comment section is closed. And having said that, this meeting is the property of 24 commissioners. At any time that you wish to be recognized, you may ask the chair to recognize you for personal privilege. And the chair, without exception, will do that. We expect that you will always be aware of where we are and when we are in our agenda, but certainly we will recognize you on a point of personal privilege. All you have to do is get the chair's attention by pressing your button. So the public comment section is closed. We will now go into our amendment to our zoning plans, and I will, we generally recess, go into recess for that. Ms. Torbett, if you are prepared, we will recognize you and go into recess for consideration of zoning. Yeah. Commissioner Gardner, resolution number 1. Ms. Torbett, would you please forgive me for taking your time? We have resolution number 1. Thank you, Commissioner Gardner. Commissioner Calton, you moved for adoption resolution number 1. It was seconded by Commissioner Gardner. Properly second. Any discussion? Seeing none, when the board opens, vote on resolution number 1. I think I threw Laura a curve also. Can't get up. Okay, then resolution number 1, consider amendments to Sullivan County zoning plan. Board is open, cast your vote. I have a habit of missing that, so I appreciate Commissioner Gardner reminding me. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
23 yes, 1 absent.
I received the necessary majority. Item number 1 is adopted, and now we can go into to recess to recognize Ms. Torbett for planning and zoning. Amber, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. So we do have 2 rezoning requests. If you have your packet handy, please, we'll go through those. Both of them went to our Sullivan County Regional Planning Commission for consideration. The second one, I do have a correction on your top sheet. It is completely my fault. The Roberts case is in the 4th Commission District, but it is the 21st Civil District. I notified the commissioners, so I apologize for that mistake. Takes a little bit more map reading for that, and I just assumed, and so I apologize. But the first one is a request from Googe Little and Associates. I know them as Little and Googe and Associates, so maybe that Googe is taking the lead. I'm not sure, but they're a great partnership. They've been developers in the county before, and they purchased property in Punny Flats. Their request is to rezone this tract of land, it's about 10 acres, from A1, which is general agricultural, to R1, single family residential. If you'll flip the map, thank you. There's the aerial image. Again, this went to our planning commission last month. And the purpose of this request is to build a traditional single family subdivision, about 15 lots. It'll be served by Johnson City Public Water. They have road frontage off Highway 11E. If you'll flip the map. You can see the property that's sort of grayed out, that's all been annexed by Johnson City. The red is our arterial zoning, commercial zoning, and the rest primarily is green. Those are farmlands. We have yellow around the corner, that's a subdivision just towards Mary Hughes School to get you, oriented. If you'll, is there one more? Okay, there's a broader zoning map, thank you. And I think there's some pictures. Okay, that is the proposed layout of the subdivision plat. This is, of course, also in your packet, and I also included some pictures. Right now, it's just farmland. I would like to, for the record, my husband and I own a piece of property right in front of this. I just wanted to disclose that. It was his grandparents' home, and we own it now, and we rent it out to a nice family. Also, if you're familiar with the Torbit Greenhouses, that's also an adjacent property owner on the highway. That's being run by my husband's aunt and cousin. It's 4th generation Torbit Greenhouses. Spoke to them, they had no opposition. In fact, I think she's been watering their trees for them. So I did not hear any other neighborhood complaint. We sent letters all around the area. But again, this is just going from A1 to R1 in order to allow for minimum half-acre lots. Some of them are going to be a little bit bigger. And that's all I have on this case. I think Mr. Ron Googe is here, or Carl Little is here, and if you have any questions for him, that's all I have.
Anybody have questions for Amber or our guest?
Oh, and there was no discussion at the planning commission. It was unanimously forwarded. A favorable recommendation to you all is in the staff report.
Mr. King, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Googe and Mr. Little, in the last 2 years, have completed a subdivision on the north side of 11E. I think the first was 70-some lots, and then they did another that connected to it with another 14 or 18 lots. And they did this in probably a year and a half, and these homes were sold as fast as they could get them finished. A lot of them were purchased before they were finished. They've got a nice subdivision over there that's finished, complete, I think. There might be one or two that's left, but anyway, it's a good subdivision. The people that's moving in, I've talked to several of them in there. Most of them are from out of state. California, Florida, New York, Illinois. They love it here. And they said they're so glad that they got out of wherever they come from and here. And it's become a community in that subdivision. So the people, get along very well, and they're just glad to be here in Tennessee, and low taxes, and how friendly people are in Piney Flats. I've heard several comments about that. So, but anyway, if they do this subdivision that they're proposing like they did the last one, I think it'll be good for our community. And I want to thank both of the gentlemen for a job well done. Thank you.
Well, and I will add adjacent to that, Travis Googe, Ron's son, is
Yes.
taking on the 12-lot subdivision up on the hill adjacent to that, and that's about complete as well. So these last two projects, first time I've worked with them in my time here with the county, but they have been great developers to work with, done everything that we've asked them to do. So if it is approved, then the Planning Commission will hear their development plans next month. The proposed name is called The Orchard. This does overlook the tree farm that was looking down. If you look at your aerial map behind it, that whole farm is now a tree farm.
Okay, anyone in the audience want to speak on this particular case? I see Mr. Little has signed up to speak, and I assume that's if needed. So is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this issue? Seeing none, it's before the commission now in a positive manner. If there are no more questions from the commission, we're ready to vote. Come see in a positive manner when the board opens. Cast your vote for or against the case number 1. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
24 yes.
Having received the necessary majority, case number 1 is approved. Mr. Orbit, you're recognized on case number 2.
Okay, thank you very much. The second request is from Larry J. Roberts, trustees, and this property is on Bullock Hollow Road in the Bluff City area along South Holston River, as you can see on the map. His request is to rezone the property, well, a portion of the property. The survey is in your packet. 3 acres from A1, general agricultural, to AR, agricultural recreational. And the purpose of his request is to build a few cabins. He has specified 2 cabins up on the hill adjacent with access off Bullock Hollow Road. You'll flip to the aerial, thank you. Where the arrow is a little bit over, this property, the tax map is a little out of date. It had been recently divided. And if you turn to the survey, there's the zoning map. We'll stay on the zoning map for a second. If you see the sort of the lime green to the left, that was rezoned a few years ago for Ms. Cogan. That is a cabin development. You all approved that rezoning request. Around the bend of the river, not on this map, is there another zoning map? Yes, okay, the star is his property. Further down the okay, thank you, yeah. Further down the river is another rezoning request. It used to be called Possum Creek Retreat. That was a cabin development. I believe since the AR zone has been created, we've had about 5 rezoning requests for AR, 2 up at Painter Creek Boat Dock, but the others have been cabin developments on the river. And so that's why when he approached me for this request, right now the AR zone is the only zone that allows for cabin or any type of outdoor recreational use. Okay, the next insert, there you go. There's the survey. Now, a lot of discussion was had on why not zone the whole thing? Well, Mr. Roberts has specifically requested, he wants to maintain privacy for his home there. His family uses this river home, and they also want to preserve the woods and the open pasture land. They will provide pedestrian access per this survey to the river for their guests if this rezoning gets approved. But the square and the right-of-way is 3 acres, which is the minimum for the cabin development regulations. So that's how that came about. But when I walked the property with him, you just have to know the lay of the land. This is the best location for site visibility for a driveway. this is the best location to afford the guests views of the river, but still offer them privacy. So this is not a subdivision, this is just a zoning boundary. So he doesn't want to zone his whole property to AR, just what's in that box. And we can't change the tax map until, you know, the zoning is. So that's why I just want to make sure you're aware of what you're actually considering for his request. Now, this went to the Planning Commission 2 months ago. However, he had an unexpected out-of-town thing. He could not attend the meeting, but we still carried on with the public hearing, and there were several folks in the neighborhood, well, across the river on Big Springs Road, that came to the first Planning Commission meeting, and their comments were heard by the Planning Commission. We had a big discussion on some of the uses and recreational uses of the river and some of their concerns. Then we reheard the case last month at the Planning Commission again to offer the landowner a chance to speak and address the Planning Commission and to hear the comments firsthand from the neighbors. The comments, I've tried to summarize them in the minutes, in the staff report. I will not read those to you. I'm assuming you might have even heard from some of the residents on Big Springs Road. But primarily their concerns were, you know, a lot of their families have lived on the river for multi-generations. It's a very quiet river. They would like to maintain a good aquatic life for the river and the fishing. And you know, South Holston River is known for their trout fishing and things like that. And that is the draw. We have a lot of fishing guides. If you do a quick Google search, you'll see all sorts of folks who have specialized in that kind of recreation and offering their services. That's what draws people to the river who don't already live on the river. Planning Commission, it was a long meeting, wanted to give everyone an opportunity to speak. I think some of them are also here, so I won't try to regurgitate their comments. I'll let, you know, they'll have an opportunity. But one thing that the Planning Commission found out from the discussion, which I wanted to bring to your attention, is we have in Sullivan County a large number of landowners who have offered their home up through short-term rentals. The short-term rentals, you might know of it as Airbnbs, VRBOs. They may even manage their own website for accommodating guests to stay at their home. If Sullivan County were to try to regulate that now, we're kind of behind the game. The state of Tennessee adopted a state law, Title 13-7603. It's under the zoning enabling legislation. In it was adopted in 2018, and the law states that we would have had to have regulations specifically prohibiting short-term rentals or allowing them with a permitting process and a renewal process and inspections, enforcement, and everything that goes along with zoning. So basically, the way I understand the law is, we just simply put, if we were to regulate short-term rentals, we would have had to have adopted zoning provisions very specific as outlined in the state law prior to 2014. Or those that already exist now, we would have to have a database for them and grandfather all those in. And then we would have had to start trying to regulate anyone new. Well, I did a real quick search in Airbnb, and we have about 500 listings just in the East Zone. You know, we promoted short-term campgrounds for Bristol Motor Speedway. We allow folks to accommodate folks during the race weekend. It would be very difficult and challenging for my small department to tackle this. I've had lots of conversations with TAPA, the Tennessee chapter of the American Planning Association, my fellow planners. I believe Nashville is regulating short-term rentals. All of my fellow planners around here, we just can't, we don't have the enforcement capabilities. The other thing is, if it is a single family renting a single family home, the property assessor is still considering that single family. So you might get some abuse where folks try to cram more than one family in a home that was really, set up for a single family. And I can see where that might be a nuisance with noise, other cars, extra trash. In my opinion, short-term rentals, by default, for them to be successful, are going to be well-maintained. They're going to have cleaning service, mowing service. They're going to be repaired, or they're not going to have folks wanting to stay. And if the property assessor is not going to assess them commercially, then it's really difficult for my office to counter that. We just don't have the manpower to go after. Now, if there's a property maintenance violation, obviously, the office can look into that. We don't have a noise ordinance, so, there could be nuisance between property owners, but it's not a zoning violation. So all that aside, there was a lot of discussion and worthy conversation from the landowners, and the Planning Commission was very, receptive and understanding. Short-term rentals along the river are very prevalent, and we don't have a database of them. Unless it's a bed and breakfast that was approved and they have a sign, those are different codes actually. And even in the state law, they're codified differently. So with that, I didn't want to get away from his request for a planned cabin development, completely different than a short-term rental of a single-family existing home. Mr. Roberts came forward with us, and we're trying to, with the zoning ordinance that we have, treat him the way we treated the other cabin developments on the river that were already approved. So that's all I have. I just wanted to bring that kind of background, and that might help explain some of the opposition comments of what those neighbors are facing with the short-term rentals.
Okay, you heard the explanation. Any member have a question for Ms. Torbett? Commissioner George, Crosswhite, then King, and Crawford. Mr. Crawford, push your button. Commissioner George, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. This is currently zoned A1, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, and how many acres this is?
He's requesting to
Gonna be the
rezone.
whole zoning.
Oh,
It's
well, it
probably
was
different.
subdivided. So, give me a second. 20 acres.
About 20 acres?
Yes.
In A1, you can do home sites, correct?
Yeah, he could subdivide and do a subdivision, and build.
And still in A1, he could put
One per acre.
one per acre. So as it stands now, he could put 30 homes on this property in the current zoning.
In theory.
In theory, I mean, it would be.
Well, I mean, he already
trained.
has his home there, but yes.
Okay, so I mean, this, in terms of, as it stands now, there could be 30 homes, or counting his, on this property, and it would not come back through zoning.
It would go back to the Planning Commission for
Commission,
development
but
plan.
we would not change
That is
that.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Crosswhite. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Amber, thank you and Jason for what you do for planning and zoning, but what I've heard through this whole night is we work for the community. I'm voting no on this because I've had several calls. The community don't want this. This river is being, however you want to say, overused, overworked. There are numerous boats out at one time. I've even been told that people are having a hard time getting on the river to fish because of the number of boats. And this gentleman, he lives in Georgia. I don't know how often he comes up here, but this is our community. I think we've stretched this as far as we can stretch it, and like I said, as far as I know, this is the second highest trout fishing spot in the country. And I mean, I'm big in tourism, if we can get tourism in here. But we've got to protect our community. So I'm voting no, and like I said, I appreciate Ms. Torvett and Jason, what they do, but that's my final word. We've got to protect our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner King, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Amber, explain the difference between what he is proposing to do and the property beside him, joins him, the Crumley family, what they did. Explain the two differences between what they've already done and got in place and what he's doing.
Well, Ms. Cogan's property, which is the Crumley Farm, she requested a rezoning to AR for cabin developments a few years ago, and she's built her cabins. It too is just a portion of their property. The rest, it's split by the county road. The rest is still a farm. She's here, so I'll let her speak to that if she wants to, but there is no difference. Same regulations, same rezoning request, just a few doors down.
Right.
And then in the other direction is Possum Creek Retreat. It might have changed names, but that cabin development is also on the river.
Right. I guess, and where I'm going with this, I don't see that if you do for one, and then you step across the fence, you know, you're going to do something for somebody else, something different, and doing the same thing.
Well, and that was a summary from the Planning Commission. They agree exactly with what you said.
But I guess, kind of what you said, you know, the reason people come to South Hostin River is to trout fish. That's the draw. And you can go up there about any time and there's 30 or 40 boats on that river. And at what point and what time are we overfishing that river? I know that TWRA stocks it. There is regulations on it. But over the last 10 years, the amount of boat traffic on that river is increased dramatically. And you know, people are coming from out of state, coming in here. There's a lot of people buying homes in here. But, you know, at what point in time is there enough cabins, enough homes that people can stay in? Are we going to destroy South Hostin River as a trophy trout stream with the amount of cabins and homes and other things that we build alongside of the river? So with that said, I think at some point in time Sullivan County needs to have a plan of how many homes, cabins, bed and breakfast or whatever we can put up along that river and still keep it in the prestige state that it's in and keep it as a trophy trout stream.
Well, I will bring those comments back to the Planning Commission. Our current land use plan, as adopted 2006 to 2026, that's how long ago I wrote it. The Planning Commission's policy was to promote agricultural and recreational zones along the river and the lakes, and that is delineated in the plan, as opposed to making recommendations for AR zones that do not front on the river and the lakes, to maintain those lands open for single-family subdivision development. So we've turned a lot of AR zones down, I say a lot, but a few, because they were not on the river or the lake. And so I try to, when I'm approached by a landowner to rezone for this idea, I'm just open and honest with them. This is the zoning plan, this is the land use plan, these are the policies, you're welcome to apply, but the Planning Commission and I cannot make a recommendation unless, you know, it's in conformance with the plan. This is. So, but with that in mind, we have a new census, new demographics, and we are working on the background study of our updated land use plan, but we haven't gotten to that point yet.
So in 2006, you said was the last time it was
It's-
updated?
No, well, it's been periodically updated. It's a 20-year plan. We do it in a house. I don't ask money from you all to hire big fancy consultants to do our land use plan. We do it in-house. It's a huge undertaking. And we're working on updating our GIS mapping for it. But it was initiated in 2006. We adopted it in 2008. We updated it a couple times in 2012, 2010 and 2012. But those policies for recreational use, their policy and plan is to promote that on the lakes and rivers, because those are the resources that, natural resources that draw our tourists to that. So we didn't want to promote a campground out in the middle of a field. We wanted to designate that for future subdivision development, for example.
So, a lot has happened in, let's say, the last 5 years on the South Houston River. And there again, you said we was behind the 8 ball on it already.
Well,
Is there something that we could go ahead and do and look at and plan for the next 5 years?
Well, short of you putting a moratorium on a specific land use, just let the planning commission do its work in updating the land use plan and studying this, but we're still getting requests for recreational uses on our lakes and river. And I can't legally direct someone no more. I mean, ultimately, it's county commission's decision whether or not to rezone it or not. But, I understand we don't want to become another Sevierville and Gatlinburg where they've overcrowded their mountains with no codes and, and things like that. But we have folks that have specifically purchased property or have always had this property that have approached us for this type of development. And the AR zone is all we have right now to guide them along. So again, ultimately any rezoning is up to the county commission to say yes or no, but I have to guide them along with the codes and the plans that we have in place now.
Well, I know that Blount County, several years ago, when the boom in Blount County was going on, they said no more houses were being built in Blount County till we catch up with the road systems, sewer, and everything else. So they put a moratorium on the number of building permits that could be issued till they got caught up on what they were doing. So what's the difference between that and what we're talking about here? If we keep as is, I mean, how many's going to go in there and apply for this before we do something about it?
Well, I would assume, take a legal resolution to adopt a moratorium, because I can't just say those words to folks.
And I agree with that. I agree with that. It's going to take, this body here to do something about it.
But I know that TVA has put in new boat ramps. They've invested in new, access to the river.
TWRA is built to two.
Yeah.
TWRA.
Right.
But anyway, and they needed it because there wasn't any place that you could put the boats and take them out, and that's fine. But there again, I just don't want to use the river to where, it's not going to be useful again as a trophy trout stream.
Well,
that's my whole point.
Well, and the same could be said for Boone Lake and South Poston Lake. It's a highway of boats. So, we're going to need to study this as a planning commission, and of course, county commission's welcome to come when we schedule those workshops. I understand what you're saying, but the case in front of us tonight is a legitimate request based on what we have right now. We got 2 other rezonings within an easy walk, not completely adjacent, but on the same road, the same side of the river. And so therefore, I'm recommending in favor of this, and so is the planning commission.
Well, there again, I think the community ought to be involved in what we're going to do. I mean,
Well, the updated land use plan will be a lengthy public process.
Exactly.
As it was before.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Crawford, you're recognized.
Amber, are there any other properties on both sides of the river in this adjacent area that is zoned as this request is, that do have rental properties already?
Yes, yes. 2 other, just a few doors down on either side. And then like I opened with, we have many, many Airbnbs or other types of short-term rentals that are zoned A1 or R1. And so not to confuse a planned cabin development from a single-family short-term rental, but the use is the same, short-term rental. So that was what I was trying to get at. The state law is very clear on what we can and cannot do. I think we're way behind the game on trying to regulate short-term rentals. It's not enforceable.
Thank you. Commissioner Akers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Amber, a couple questions. Commissioner George kind of started with the first one about the current 20 acres or so is A1, so we subdivide that up and put 20, 25 homes, whatever the number would be on that. Current. So the zoning is for 3-some acres, right?
Correct.
And 2 cabins.
That's his plan, yes.
All right. And it's kind of like in what Commissioner Crawford said. I literally drove all the way out through there today and looked at everything. There's some really beautiful cabins where we've already rezoned this AR designation. And then if you go across a bridge down there and then drive up and down this whole Big Springs Road, none of them are zoned AR, but there's a tremendous amount of short-term rentals because they all got their flags out front that says fishing lodges. Now, my definition of lodge and their definition of lodge may be a little bit different, but everybody's doing it. And so it's kind of like what Commissioner King said, at some point, we're going to have to regulate it. I don't think we're there yet, and I think this is the type of homeowner we want to come and say, hey, I want to designate this so it has to be a specific type. Because then he's got to come to you and zoning to get
Let's
it
go back to
approved.
the Planning
Right.
Commission, yes.
Now, can he put more than 2 cabins on there?
Well, it would be based on soil suitability.
Okay.
So it's 1 per half acre.
All right.
So in theory.
In theory, he could have about 6 maybe, I mean, depending, and everything,
But it's not flat land.
right, yeah, it's not, I mean, I highly recommend, because I was a little kind of confused exactly where some of that was going to go.
If you overcrowd it, you kind of killed the deal on why anyone would want to, you know,
Right.
this is not Sevierville where they go so they can go shopping.
Yeah.
This is to be outdoors.
But there's some good development out there, or small little developments in those cabins, and my brother-in-law was here just a few weeks ago and rented some of them, and brought 2 boys in from Nashville and everything, so I kind of agree with Commissioner King. We got to really start looking at not overdoing it, but this just kind of seems to make sense the way my driving around there today looked like and everything. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Commissioner Blaylock, you're recognized.
This is more of a curiosity question again. This Larry J. Roberts who owns this, is that the lawyer that was here
No.
Huh?
No.
No, he's not a lawyer?
No, and he's here, so I'm sure he'll want
Is he
to
here?
speak. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Well, thank
So
you.
in my minutes, you'll see that he stated that he's been coming up here for many, many, many years.
Okay, so it's not the lawyer out of Johnson City?
No.
So I don't need to know about the Corey Roberts. Is that
Corey Roberts is the family member representing
Okay.
this.
No problem. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Blaylock. Commissioner Crosswhite, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Amber, you might already answered this. Approximately how many cabins and B&Bs are there already there in that area? Do you know?
I think, Ms. Cogan, do you have 3 now? She has 3. Possum Creek Retreat has a lodge and kind of like a meeting space and 2 other little cabins. I don't know how many rooms they have. Those were the ones that were done legally. We have fishing cabins. They were Actually built by Central Carpentry Class. It's skills class. They were 1-bedroom, small fishing camp cabins on Henson Hill Road, I believe, that Mr. Lawrence Beaudry got rezoned with you all a couple years ago. I think he's got 2 or 3 up there, but he's recently sold it. The other AR zones are on South Holston Lake. They were campgrounds, the new campgrounds, not the ones that were grandfathered in. That's it off the top of my head, I believe. The others either pre-exist or they Airbnb it without approval. So.
But you don't know the actual number?
I told you in the beginning, just my quick login to Airbnb, because my husband travels a lot and some communities don't have hotels where his job sites take him. He has to Airbnb it with his crew. So we have a little Airbnb account. There were over 500 just in the East Zone.
But you don't know how many cabins are
Cabins, houses,
whatever.
garage apartments. It's whatever people are willing to invite the public to come for a fee, and people are willing to pay.
I truly think that we need to look at how many's already there before to continue on to put more.
Well, and that's the thing. We can't regulate Airbnbs. Those that are already there.
No, honey, I'm not talking
Yeah.
about
Oh, okay.
These, I'm talking about the cabins.
Uh-huh.
I think that we need to really check into that before we allow more to come, because we're going to run this river.
Well, and I failed to mention Tailwater Lodge. That's one of the recent ones you all approved on TVA Road South. That was 3 houses that were rented out, and then it was sold. And then the Codys have gone through the whole rezoning, development plan, really invested a ton of money in these beautiful cabins looking out. And that's just past Emmett School. So that's 4 cabin developments that you all have approved AR zonings over the past couple of years.
Well, thank you. And I'm glad people are building nice cabins.
Yeah.
I still think it's going to be overpopulated.
Oh, sure, and I will definitely take these comments back to our planning commission. Very good information and feedback. They have been studying, actually distinguishing our campground regulations. Right now we have a one-size-fits-all. AR is for everything. And so actually on the agenda next month will be a proposal to distinguish between cabin developments and campground regulations. So help better define so you know exactly what is going to come before you. But I'll present that next month. It's going through Kingsport and Bristol this month.
Thank you, Amber, but please remember, people, we might already be to the point that we're going to run this river, and we already probably have enough cabins, Airbnbs, whatever you want to call them there, so that's not finished, so I won't be voting for it. But thank you, Amber.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I believe that clears the board of folks that have questions for Amber. Randy, if you'll go ahead. Mr. Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Amber, so Mr. Roberts is planning to build 2 cabins there on that 3.47 acre flag tract. Okay. Folks, I'll tell you what, I'm going to brag a little bit. No one in this room knows that river better than me. I was raised on it. I've swam in it, drank out of it a little bit sometimes, and maybe that's what's wrong with me every once in a while. But fished in it when it was generating. We would fish in it. And then we took up these big 8-man floatable rafts going down it during the day and at night. And so I know a lot about that river. And I have voted for at least 3 of these type zonings, Amber, starting up at South Houston Dam, right below the Weir Dam and coming down. And of course, the one that's below Mr. Roberts' property there on the other side of the river, I was on the commission then, and I'm sure I voted for that one too, as any others. And, you know, I can remember when TVA built the Weir Dam. Folks, that was put there primarily to put more air in water for the trout, to promote what? Trout fishing. And it was. And it's a wonderful thing there. And I look on, you know, the ramps that's been built on down the river, on Big Springs Road. There's a big boat ramp there, pretty good size parking lot boat ramp right there in this, what we call the sharp curve on Big Springs Road there. That was built there, and it was built for, you know, for fishermen. And as you going down the river toward Bluff City, you can see other parking areas that's been built by TWRA for the fishermen. And I'm saying all this because on the McMorrell and Nora Morrell farm, that was where the rock quarry is at. If anyone knows anything about that river, they probably know where the rock quarry is at, down in the old county rock quarry. And, you know, we still go down there and we'll eat a lunch sandwich or something. And we are amazed at the boats, these fly fishing boats, kayaks, canoes, inflatables, and everything else that's on that river now. And, you know, probably 2 months ago, my wife and I was, when we were talking about it, sitting down there, you know, the river, I don't think it's ever going to be what I remember it was in my childhood. And you know, some will call it progress and everything else, but that's the way that river's been promoted. And buddy, it's caught on. I mean, it has caught on. And I can perfectly understand why Mr. Roberts and other people want to come and live here. I really can. I do think that Dwight hit on a very good subject, and Mr. Eckert. I think in the very near future that we do need to look at this and see where the oversaturation may be or whatever. But you know, I voted for some of these districts myself, zoning districts in my district, and everything. And I guess, you know, I understand completely how the residents feel out there. I really do. We feel like we've kind of lost our river to a certain extent. Maybe we couldn't keep the secret good enough, but we were kind of overmatched by the advertising, by TVA and other people, and it's never going to look like what I remember it as anymore. I know that and everything, but so and there is a lot of short-term single homes that people have bought, and they bought it specifically to use as short-term rentals, and they do. They have the signage up along the road. You could just ride down the road, and you know, 50 or 60 of them, just you'll see them right off the bat. So, you know, having said all that, you know, I really have some mixed feelings about this rezoning, but and I think we need to, the planning and zoning needs to really look at this here shortly to see what we need to do on this and everything. But as I said, I really understand what the residents feel down through there and everything. But I think Mr. Roberts would probably be a good addition to what we've got down through there. But again, we need to look at this in the short term about setting further guidelines along that river. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought we had a clear board. Mr. Glover wants to speak. Mr. Glover, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the problem that I've got with this, and I'll be very brief because we've spent a lot of time. This young man lives in Georgia. Our other cabins and fishing lodges that we have on the river at this point in time is local people that live there that take care of them. For an example, the Crumney folks, they've got the cabins, they're right there where they can watch them and take care of them. And my concern is having a problem with something going on there with the cabins and this guy in Georgia. I don't know how much time he spends up here, but I'm sure it'd be back and forth. But that's a concern that I've got. And I guess the concern I've got too, it don't matter how we feel about this. There's 3 commissioners that represents that area, and they represent those people. And those people have expressed to them that they didn't want this. And I think there's a petition with several signatures on it that was presented to these folks. So I've read some of them there and looked at them, but I think we need to respect our fellow commissioners that if, you know, like I said, they represent that area and they represent those people. So I know we've heard from one of the commissioners, but there's 2 more that represents that area. Let's listen from them and see what their comment is.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions for Amber? Or comments you'd like to make to Amber? Seeing none, we'll recess for public hearing, and those folks who have joined us in the audience who would like to speak on this case, I will start at the top, and I would remind you as you approach the well, if you will give us your name, address for the electronic record. We generally allow 3 minutes. I will give a little twirl of the pen if I need you to wrap up if you've gone over. We generally allow 30 minutes, but we want everybody to speak and as succinctly as possible to state your purpose. So the first person I have on the list is Charles Phelps. Mr. Phelps, you're welcome and recognized at the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hope you all can hear me. I do talk slow, so 3 minutes might be a problem, but I will certainly step down. There's actually 4 commissioners, 3 on the Hickory Tree side of the river. 3 of y'all are here, 4 of you are here now, I think. So there's 1 on Bullock Hall Road. At any rate, I have a farm. I farm on Big Springs Road. That farm's been in my family for 60 plus years, 3 generations, and we love it. We love the area, we love the community, and that is what's bringing people in here along with the tremendous fish population. There are times that you cannot put a boat in the river at the TVA boat ramp, the TWRA boat ramp. There are times that that boat ramp is completely saturated and vehicles. You can't hear me? You don't want me to start over, do you? There are times that the trailers, the boat trailers, are parked halfway out in the road in the big curve. And I will point out that as saturated as that boat ramp is, there is not a rest room at that facility. If the Hickory Tree store or Possum Creek restaurant is closed, well, you all can figure out where people go, okay? What we hear from across the river on the Bullock Hall Road side, we hear noise. It migrates down to the river. We hear gunshots. You can hear a .22 rifle shot. We hear music. We hear discussions off of this property. This property was marketed as an A1 zone. It was marketed as that fairly recently, in the last couple of years. That was how it was purchased. I have heard that there's 2 planned cottages to be built. I've also heard that there was 7, so it's kind of a moving target. I do have a concern, as Commissioner King and others have mentioned. This river is an asset to our community, and it is being depleted. The fish are, you know, if you talk to these trout guide people, they say that it is being depleted. And it is stocked by the TWRA. And, you know, we need to take care of it. But there's noise. And I will point out, and I've got some rental property. Yeah, you know, that's obvious. I live at this site. I manage it. If I don't, my boss is sitting right there. And she gets it done. And there is work. The site needs to be maintained. I heard somebody mention that there's not a trash ordinance or something in Sullivan County. You know, these people, you know, that come and stay, they leave trash. They leave trash. And if you don't believe me, come out to my place on Sunday mornings, because I'm picking it up on Big Springs Road. Appreciate your all's time and effort. I've learned a lot. Appreciate the concerns, both positive and negative, but those are my comments. Any questions? Hearing none, I will step down.
Mr. Phelps, thank you, and you came in under the clock. The next person I have on the list, if you're here to speak on this case, is Amber Simcox. Name and address, Ms. Simcox.
My name is Amber Simcox. I live at 423 Big Springs Road.
Thank you.
I've been there as long as I can remember. I think my family moved there about when I was 2 or 3 years old, and it's a beautiful place. Raised my kids there. My husband used to live close by, and then we moved on my parents' property. I've got many, what I call a family, that live down that river. I call them all Mom and Dad, because all of us have been there for so long. Not giving my age away, but it's been close to 50 years. It's beautiful, and we don't want it to change. I want my grandchildren to come there, you know, and enjoy that with us. We've had some good times there. The boat ramp, we've seen drugs dealt there. My nephew got shot at there when he was down there. We're just 2 driveways from that boat ramp. The more people you bring in, the strangers, they come in, more violence, takes away from the beauty. The eagles, the trout, the osprey. It's just a beautiful place to live, and I think sometimes we take for granted how blessed we really are to be there. But we just don't want that taken away. Things change, but if we're in a position to stop the change because it's going to be bad for the community, then I think we should consider stopping it. Like he said, it's getting depleted, and it doesn't matter if you put 1 or 2 more cabins in, or no more cabins in. It's still going to get depleted just because of the number of boats and people that are coming through there already. So I would prefer it to stop now, and not to do a couple now and a couple later, and then vote later that we're going to stop now or later, but just stop now. I mean, you know, the more you drag your feet on and say, well, how many more do we need? We can add 1 more. We can add 2 more, we can add, you know, and maybe later on down the line, Mr. Robertson may decide to do more than 2. Maybe not 7, but more than 2. But where's the stopping point? I mean, you know, we've got more generations to come that would love to enjoy this river as much as we have grown up. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next on the list is Dorothy Perry. Name and address, Mr. Perry.
My name's Dorothy Perry. I live at 417 Big Springs Road. You just heard from my daughter. Well, we've lived where we are right now for 45 years. We brought Amber with us when we moved down there. She was a year old. We love it there. My husband knew of that place before we were even married and said, I've always wanted to live there. So it's kind of something he picked out before he even knew me. So It was mentioned about Gatlinburg, Sevierville, where they hang cabins up on the side of mountains.
Could you use the microphone,
Oh, I'm
please?
sorry. Is it-
Evidently,
Okay.
our small mic is not doing well, so thank you.
Sorry. Where Gatlinburg, they hang cabins up on the side of mountains. I've been in one of them. It's not fun. But we don't want anything like that to happen to our home. The river, it's like everybody said, it's a beautiful place. I don't blame Mr. Roberts for wanting to live there. I wish he did live there. I think he would understand more of what we're saying. But it's just that it seems, and if you consider the racetrack and all the people that come here for the races and everything, I know you're aware of the cleanup that has to go on after they leave. And you're aware of the disrespect that some of them show. Not all of them, but some of them. It's something that we just dread seeing. I know change is coming. There are farms there that the people who own them maybe can't keep them up much longer. Maybe they're getting too old, you know, to work them. That's a bad thing. I wish more young people could enjoy what we have. But I guess what the important thing is that we don't, I guess we're afraid our homes, our area, our community is not going to be respected by people who just come in to visit a weekend or a week. I don't think that respect is there if they're just coming and going. So that's my concern. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the list is Betty Cogan. Ms. Cogan, if you would use our microphone and give us your name and address.
I'm Betty Cogan, and I live at 2085 Bullock Hollow Road. I
Thank you.
am the one with the cabin development that's been discussed here tonight. And yes, it would be very hypocritical for me to stand up here and say, no cabins, no cabins, no cabins. We did, and I do think there are some huge differences in the development that we did versus what Mr. Roberts is doing. I've not met Mr. Roberts. I've never spoke with him. I don't know anything. So I'm just going on what we've been told. But we, as a family farm, we have probably a 500-acre farm there. That the river, we did a conservation effort to take cattle off the river. And that is one reason we had the river land. So we needed to diversify to replace what we could do with that river land. That is why we built the cabins. We have the cabins there. They're very small. Ours are 600 square feet. They're very small cabins. So, and the biggest difference I see that's going to happen is I live there. I am within sight of these cabins at all times. I know who's there. I know what's happening. I scan everybody that comes in because I have to live there. And I know that across the river from us is the Baker farm, so there's another farm. There's, you know, there's not a development across from us, so I do know that. But, you know, just we brought to you all that you all did approve, and it was a site plan. By the time we got to this stage, we had a site plan for 4 cabins in total, and the land that we had zoned was the only land we were going to use as the recreational. You know, we have 15 acres zoned, but we're not building any more cabins. But the only land that we use as recreational is zoned for recreational. We don't have another part, you know, we didn't zone one little piece and then use the rest for the recreational. So that is one difference that we do have in where we're at. So we do understand the development. We do understand it's beautiful. We love it. And we are worried about the conservation. You know, it's not about competition because there's plenty of people that will come. We stay very busy, but we stay very guarded on conserving what we have. So I understand and I respect it, And I just hope that you all do know we appreciate you, and we just want to make sure there's a long-term conservation for the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, Corey Roberts.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. I think Ms. Corbett pretty much covered most of the stuff I was going to say regarding, what our plans are for the development.
Would you use the mic, Corey?
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
Well,
Is that better?
I'm sorry our small one's not working. Thank you.
Yeah, so the plans, I think she covered most of that. We want to build 2 cabins right now. Down the road, there might be a 3rd cabin, but we have no plans for any more than 2. And that's, we could have rezoned the entire, or tried to rezone the entire property if we had plans for multiple cabins or a large development, and that's not our plan. We want to maintain our privacy as well as the neighbors' privacy. I've spoken with the neighbors on both sides of our property. They have no issues with this. As far as the other cabin developments and how ours may be different, the other cabin developments actually have more cabins than what we're looking to build. They're closer to the river than what we're looking to build, and ours are more private. You can't see our cabins from the road. There's only one house that can actually see these cabins, and it's a 1/4 mile at least away on the other side of the river. So we're nowhere near any of these houses. We want, like I said, we want to maintain the privacy. That's one reason we bought the property. And I've been coming up here. I am from Georgia, Dalton, Georgia, right below Chattanooga, about 15 minutes from the Tennessee line. I've been coming up here for over 20 years, fly fishing. And if you want to ask me about it, I think the river fishes just as good right now as it did 20 years ago. And I think there's a reason that people continue to come up here to fish. And I also am friends with some of the fishing guides on the river. There's examples of just a few months ago, one of my good friends who's a fishing guide had a client coming in from out of town. He could not find a cabin to stay on the river. He ended up staying in Johnson City. And that still happens to this day. So I don't think there are too many cabins on the river that, and I know nothing about the other houses, the Airbnbs and all that, but as far as the cabins that I know of, that I've stayed at, I still feel like there's a need. And like I said, we have no plans on overbuilding on the river. We're going to be way off of the river. As far as trash goes, as I mentioned with the Planning Commission, one of the first things that me and my family did when we bought that property, me and my 2 boys and my wife went down to the river and took a trash bag and picked up every piece of trash on the river. So, as far as the concerns about me living out of town, I do come up here quite often, a couple times a month, and I am in the process of interviewing 2 different people to be full-time managers of the property. They'll watch over the property on a daily basis. There's no way I would build these cabins without that. So we're going to have a full-time manager for the property, and the only reason I don't have one yet is because, of course, we've got other steps to try to go through first. So that's about all I have to say, and if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We do have one question, Mr. Roberts, or a couple here.
Mr. Roberts, do you have an estimate on how much these cabins will bring in revenue?
I don't have an exact estimate, no. Hopefully, $75,000 annually would be great for each. That'd be a rough estimate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cole, you're recognized.
It's more of a statement, not a question. I do have mixed feelings on this. You have cabins and you don't have cabins. I detest zoning, I really do. At the end of the day, I'm going to go with the petitioners. We do have a petition, and I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Looks like that's all. Okay, we have one other person on the list that has not spoken. That's Phyllis Mullins. Ms. Mullins? you'll give us your name and address and use our mic.
Thank you, Honorable
Thank you.
Mayor. Distinguished members of the commission, thank you for being here and listening. I have all the other concerns that, well, I live at 569 Big Springs Road. My property adjoins Mr. Roberts at the middle of the river. We found out about this proposal only through the letter that was sent to us by the Rezoning Commission. I have all the other concerns that my neighbors have voiced, plus an added one. I'm a wildlife lover. I can sit on my front porch and watch osprey, watch the eagles fish. I have deer that leave their babies in my front yard during the day. I have spent hours trying to get pictures of them. My concern is with all of these, the eagles are quitting fishing. They come to the shallow part. I have 420 feet of road frontage. They fish in that area, or they did fish in it. I have only seen them about 3 times this year. I have pictures, I film them. I'm very concerned that with added people, that you're going to, we've just now gotten our eagles till we have nests a mile down the river. Eugene and Francis, I don't know if you all know them or not, but I've watched them raise babies and fledge little ones. You know, it's amazing. We have to conserve our wildlife. The fishing on there, yes, it can be overfished. The Tennessee Wildlife has just recently, on the turkeys, have made new rules and regulations because the turkeys are being overshot during when the seasons are open. I just recently heard that on the news. Yes, it can happen. We have to be careful. Our wildlife is very important to us. And there are eagle conservation things that state that you should not mess with where they fish. You need, the letters that were sent to you in the packet contain that there's 4 letters in the petition. I hope you all took time to read those. These are concerns that everyone in our community has. You know, please, if it was your community and you were faced with all of this change, how would you feel? How would you want your home to be a place that you didn't want to be in? A home should be where you love to be. You don't want it to worry each time how many people are going to be across the road from you, who's coming in at what time. I'm sorry, I live directly across from you. I want to see everybody that's there. Everybody that walks down the river. In the mornings, I have 4 and 5 boats in front of my house because of the program. They cannot, if it's not generating, they can't go on. There's 4 and 5. It's the same area across the river from his road frontage. I have pictures of it if you would like to see. I have pictures of the boats. I mean, it's hard to sit on your front porch and enjoy what you've enjoyed all your life. I've been there since 1975, 47 years.
I need you to wrap up.
Okay, I thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope that you will consider everything when you vote. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes the list that I have for the public hearing. I'd like to say, just for personal note, thank you all for speaking, and thank you for making your points very succinctly and quickly. Thank you. I know that helps the commission. So, commissioners, do you have any? I've got 2 commissioners, and Commissioner Calton and you're recognized.
Okay, I just wanted to ask a question. I guess Ms. Mullins that just spoke.
I'm sorry?
Could I ask Ms. Mullins a question?
If she's willing to come back, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I'm looking at this petition, and all but 2
lives on, Big Ridge,
Big Spring Road.
Big Springs Road?
Yes, ma'am, there's
Okay.
2 that live on Bullock Hollow.
Okay, that's right. There's 2 residents.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Fankhauser would be here tonight, but COVID showed its bad face.
Well, I just want to know, what is the distance from Big Springs Road to Bullock Road?
Well, if you go down the river, you have to go, it's a mile, 2 miles down the river and you cross the bridge and go up about a half a mile and you hit Bullock Hollow Road.
So it's that distance before you get to Big Springs Road, right?
No. His property is directly across the river from mine. I could throw a rock at him. If you take the road, you have to travel down the road. But looking, you can look straight across.
Okay.
Does that explain?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Knowles.
You're welcome, sir.
Commissioner Stanley, you're recognized.
I guess my question's for Dan. If we have passed these rezonings on the same thing and this one does not pass, could we be looking at legal repercussions on it?
Well, you can always be looking at challenges from people that petition to rezone, but I feel the county commission has it's your choice what you do. Now, for example, you couldn't just pick one person out and turn him down, but the next one that comes along, approve his, or you couldn't do it based on race or something like that. But if you, as a group, have a reason to oppose this zoning, then you have a right to do it. It's zoning is a legislative act, and it's up to you to decide what the laws are and how we handle our zoning. So I feel like you have the authority to approve or reject it. Yes, you may be challenged. And again, as I said, you can't do it just specifically pick out one individual and turn him down, but then approve everybody else. That wouldn't work. But if you have a reason that you're going to enforce and stick to, then I think it could be upheld.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Any other questions from the commission for Amber or the board is clear, so we'll take that as that you're ready to vote. When the board opens, vote on application number 2. It comes to you in a positive manner. Yes, will result in approval. Everyone voted. Anyone wish to change a vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
14 yes, 10 no.
Having received the necessary majority, the application is approved. We are closed with our planning and zoning hearing. Next up is our resolution agenda. It's about 8:20, and your chairman needs a break, and I hope you need one, and we'll appreciate one. So we'll be back here at 8:35.